Okay, we're about to begin. Director Silva, whenever you want to start.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I would like to call to order the April 18, 2018 meeting of the Committee on Finance, Audit, and Budget. Will the Secretary call the roll, please?
Yes, Director Miller. Here. Director Irvine. Here. Director Alvarez-Rosales.
Here.
Director Peterson.
Here.
Chairman Silva.
Here.
We have a motion with all 5 members of the committee present.
Our first order of business is an approval of the committee minutes of March 14, 2018. May I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Will the Secretary call the roll, please?
Yes, Mr. Miller. Ms. Irvine.
Yes.
Ms. Alvarez-Rosales.
Yes.
Mr. Peterson.
Yes.
Chairman Silva.
Yes.
That motion is approved with 4 yes votes and 1 abstention.
Our next order of business is the review of the finance report. Jeremy.
Good morning, I'm Jeremy Fine, your Chief Financial Officer. And I'll walk through the results for February. Starting from the top here with regard to fare boxes, we see fare boxes slightly down for the month of February. This is due to the inclement weather, particularly that 1 week in February where we had severe cold and snow. That affected fare box, which is primarily cash riders, discretionary rides, and the like. Passes, however, we saw an increase in passes, primarily due to the increase of 7-day and 30-day passes. So for the overall month, we saw it on a net basis for fare and pass totals up over $100,000. Reduced fare subsidy, which is the money that we receive from the state, has been cut in half since 2015. So we see a drag of $1.2 million for the month of February due to that line item. Non-fare box totals, which are advertising and concession type revenues, coming in as expected per the budget. So overall revenues are down about $1.1 million. Again, if we would have received our full allotment of reduced fare reimbursement from the state, we would have been at or slightly above budget. We continue to make efforts on enforcement of scofflaws with regard to free rides for the month of February. On a year-to-date basis, again, we see the vectors are primarily the same for each of the line items. The one thing I would like to highlight here is with regard to the revenue total on a variance to 2017 year-to-date basis. We are up to our 2017 totals, a total of $7.3 million. That's not necessarily unexpected with regard to the fare increase, and you see that accounting for $3.6 million, but I'd also like to highlight the fact that the non-fare box revenues are also up 3.7, which is due to the enhanced number of screens out on the system and the additional revenue that we're collecting from the expanded footprint of the advertising component of our budget. With regard,
so Jeremy,
yes.
just a question on there is more of the stations come online. I'm thinking about 95th Street. There was a lot of space. So should we continue to see that number kind of go up with more opportunities?
Yeah, we are looking at ways to continue to expand the footprint. There's a number of additional signs that will go into circulation. We're also looking for new opportunities, like as you mentioned at 95th Street, expanding the number of screens at potential stations as well. With regard to expenses, we continue as we did through 2017, try to tighten our belt throughout the year. Here in February, we continue to do so, but there were some events, particularly in February here, as I previously mentioned, that did have an effect on our budget in the form of additional overtime on the labor line. The snow event, obviously, we have more people out on the system to ensure that the service is delivered, adequately and efficiently. So there is an impact with regard to that. In addition, You know, the February month was the first month that the ATU contract went into effect. So there's also an impact on the additional costs associated with the ATU contract. Materials, as we talked about last month, were unfavorable. This month, again, being able to benefit from the pre-purchases that we made in January, were slightly favorable for the month of February. Fuel is slightly down. That also is a function of the inclement weather, needing to warm those buses up so that when they're going into service, they're already comfortable for our passengers. Power is essentially flat, as is injuries and damages. Security services is slightly favorable, but essentially flat. And again, our continued effort to control costs is manifested here in the form of almost $2 million of favorability on the other expense line. So overall, we see total operating expenses favorable to the tune of about $260,000. When you net that against our revenue, we're down for the month of February about $830,000. Again, we'll continue to make efforts to control costs and to increase revenues in the coming months. On a year-to-date basis, February was a better month than January, so you see that impact here on the next page. The overall, the overall unfavorability on the expense side is about $283,000 on a year-to-date basis, giving us a net of down $2.6 million on a year-to-date basis for 2018. For our three commodities that we purchased,
So Jeremy,
yes.
before you leave the labor page, do we expect that to level out over the years, since we did kind of anticipate, reaching an agreement? So does that kind of level out as we get more into the year?
So we will see a continued trend because let me back up. With regard to the ATU negotiations, as part of the 2018 budget process, we did not include an estimate for what the additional wage increase would be. That has been kind of historic precedent here at CTA with regard to not trying to guesstimate as to what the potential impact would be. Again, we will see a slight negative variance as we go forward through the months, as you see here. Again,
Even
that
through the end of the year?
yes.
So now that we know what the increase is for the labor, so you wouldn't go back and look at the budget to smooth it out?
We can definitely do that. We're doing that internally, and we're glad to report that type of effect. So netting out that line, yeah, glad to do that.
Well, one, because if it's going to show up as negative every year, but internally you're already working to smooth it out now that you know what the increase is going to be. We're seeing a negative number, but internally you're managing it.
Yes, yes. With regard to the three commodities that we purchase, fuel, power, and natural gas, I'd like to highlight a few things, in additional purchases that we've made since the January meeting. With regard to fuel, you'll notice here on the bottom of the left-hand column, we're at now 80% of the 2018 volume. This historically has been the maximum amount that we have that we purchase on a forward basis for our fuel consumption for the year. Again, we did this, thankfully prior to the recent actions in the Middle East. So we were able to lock in the full amount of 80% for the year and achieve about $500,000 of savings to the budget. So again, that's a great positive variance that we're excited about with regard to the fuel pre-purchases. With regard to natural gas, there on the bottom right-hand column, we purchased 25% of our 2020 volume, and we did so at historically low rates. We actually were able to lock in at a rate that was probably about 20 cents lower than what we've previously been able to do, which was already a historically low rate. So we'll continue to make selective purchases on that commodity as we move forward if rates remain, very favorable.
Does the price of gas continues to go down?
The price of natural gas continues to go down, but unfortunately, the price of oil recently has been going up.
So what would you say is driving that?
With regard to natural gas?
No.
With regard to oil? So the instability in the Middle East, most recently, but there's also been talk of sanctions with regard to Iranian oil. So if that supply were to come offline, and that's what's being speculated right now in the pricing of oil, that there would be elevated prices. In addition to that, Venezuela is having a lot of issues with regard to oil worker strikes. So that oil supply is also being challenged. So again, those are two of the largest suppliers of worldwide oil production. So, having both oil supplies from those countries being mitigated has had a negative effect on oil prices.
Any questions? Any questions?
Okay.
There are no questions, Jeremy.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry. Our final order of business today is the review of 12 purchase and sales award recommendations. Presenter Ellen McCormick. Good morning, Ellen.
Good morning.
We will start with contracts numbers A1 through A3. Any questions?
Yes.
No question. Let's move to contract numbers A4 through A6. Now let's move to contracts numbers A7 through A9. Move to contracts B1 and B2. And in B2 I have, can you give us, a little bit more of color, of how this evaluation was done in the B2?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
B2, can you give us more color, of the way, the process that was used, for
Sure.
B2?
Chris Bouchel, your Chief Infrastructure Officer. Director, could you repeat the question?
In the,
I'm sorry, are you asking more from a procurement standpoint?
Yeah, the procurement
Okay, sure.
standpoint,
I'd be
yeah.
happy to explain it to you. So we went out for an RFP, and what we did was we had an entire scope that we wanted performed. We weren't sure exactly, and we did have a set budget, so we weren't sure exactly what work we could get performed with that budget. So we went out and we asked them to price all of the work in the scope, and then we asked them to price some of the certain portions of the scope, so that if when they bid on the entire amount, if it was too high, we could reduce some of the work that was being performed, so that CTA was then in control of what work was going to be performed, and we could get it to fit within our budget.
And the bids, came very close.
They weren't that close. One came, it was approximately $20 million difference, approximately.
And then we went.
They were within the budget that we were.
One was within the
contemplating.
budget. The one that we selected was within the budget. The other one was higher than our
It was
budget,
higher.
yes.
But then you implemented a process, of how you call it, I mean.
We deducted
Yeah,
some of the work that was being performed to make sure that we could fit it within our budget.
okay, good. Are you comfortable with the result?
Very happy with the results. We worked very closely with Chris's team, and we're very happy with the results that we got. I think Chris would say the same.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. Now, any other questions? Okay, B1,
Yeah.
B2?
Well, I've got one for Chris. I know in the construction projects, we're used to seeing more of a 30% DB participation on our construction projects. Can you kind of speak to why it's 15% this time versus what we normally see when it comes to our construction projects?
Yes. Yes, Juan Pablo Prieto, Interim Senior Manager, Diversity Programs. Mr. Chairman, the scope of the project is complex. The goal that we evaluated is consistent with other signal projects, but something that we did unique on this project for the first time is we split our goal into the design and construction portion. We heard from our design community and the DBE community that they weren't getting enough work on design-build projects. The DB participation was being backloaded into construction. So we decided to split the goal into a design and construction goal, and we got a higher design portion from DB participation that we normally get on design-build.
Is this the first time we've done this?
Yes.
Okay. Is this something kind of going forward you think we would do in the future as well?
Yes. On design-build, we always look to split the goal between design and construction.
And I know it goes without saying that we always consider the 15%, or even if it's 30%, to be the floor. and not
Correct.
the-
So we also included our diversity outreach plan in this RFP. So the contractor has committed to holding outreach events once the design is complete, and they're ready to put out trade work packages to talk to the DB community and diversify their diversity outreach plan.
And you're confident that there's enough work there to reach the goals?
Yes, we held 2 meet and greet events with the prospective bidders, and we had 23 firms attend one and 32 attend the other, so we're confident that we can meet the goal.
Any other question? May I have a motion to approve contract G1?
Excuse me, Chairman, I don't think you asked, maybe it wasn't quite clear if anybody has any questions on G1.
Yeah. Finally, okay, let's go to contract number G1, and
Right. If there was any questions on that before we take a separate vote.
are there any questions for G1?
No, it's a small change order, but $4,000.
Now, may I have a motion to approve contract G1?
Moved and seconded
Secretary,
on
call
just
the roll,
G1,
please.
because there's going to be an abstention. Okay. So this is just G1, the Adobe tiny contract. Reverend Miller? No, this is on G1, yes. So you want to? Yes. Yes, you approve G1. Yes on G1.
Yes.
Kevin? Ms. Alvarez-Rosales?
I'll abstain.
You abstain. Mr. Peterson?
Yes.
Chairman Silva?
Yes.
So that motion is approved with 4 yes votes and 1 abstention by Ms. Alvarez-Rosales.
If there are no further questions, may I have leave to place the other 11 contracts on the omnibus for approval?
So moved.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded on the 11 contracts, remaining contracts in the omnibus. Mr. Miller? Ms. Irvine?
Yes.
Ms. Alvarez-Rosales?
Yes.
Mr. Peterson?
Yes.
Chairman Silva?
Yes.
That motion is approved with 5 yes votes.
Since there is no further business to come before this committee, may I have a motion to recommend board approval of the omnibus?
So moved. I'll second.
Would the
Put them on
secretary
omnibus.
call the
Now we're
roll,
appro-
please?
Correct. Now we're approving the omnibus. Mr. Irvine?
Yes.
Ms. Alvarez-Rosales?
Yes.
Mr. Peterson?
Yes.
Chairman Silva?
Yes.
For sure, we're on it now. So that's the motion is approved. 5 votes yes. Everything's on the omnibus except
Thank
number 11, recommended for board approval. Thank you.
Thank you. And finally, may I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
We are adjourned.
Proceedings. Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'd like to call to order the regular scheduled meeting of Chicago Transit Board for April 18. Would the secretary call the roll?
Yes, Mr. Miller. Here. Ms. Irvine.
Here.
Ms. Alvarez-Alias.
Here.
Mr. Silva.
Here.
Chairman Peterson.
Here.
We have a quorum of the board with 5 members present.
Thanks, Greg. The first order of business today, accommodations. Dorval.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you know, one of my top priorities at CTA is to provide dependable, affordable, and convenient service to every customer. And I personally take that responsibility very seriously. As you've probably heard me speak on a number of occasions, using CTA is more than just getting people from point A to point B. It's about providing a quality experience and a service that people can count on. That requires every single one of us who engages with the public daily, as well as those of us who work behind the scenes, to work hard, work smart, and always put our customers first. One of the ways that we put our customers first is by upgrading our infrastructure, station rehabilitations, new trains and buses, new technology, and more. Another way that we put our customers first is the quality service that is provided to them by our dedicated, responsible, and hardworking employees who make our riders feel welcome each day. For as you know, from the customer's perspective, the face of CTA is not you or me or any of the members here in this room. It is the employees who are out there every day interacting with our customers and providing the service that our customers expect on a daily basis, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. These customers, or these employees, are the CTA ambassadors. They are, in fact, the face of CTA. These employees basically are bus operators, our rail station staff, and customer service representatives in our call center are always the first point of contact for our customers as they interact with CTA. These employees often directly affect how the public feels about our organization, as well as the support that they get for the issues that they deal with on a daily basis. This morning, I'm honored to acknowledge some of our best employees. These talented, devoted bus operators, customer service representatives, and others are being commended for their exceptional customer service skills and their knack for making each CTA customer feel like the priority that they are. Each one of these employees are the top in their job categories for commendations that have been not given by CTA, but by the public itself, in terms of comments and commendations that have come back to us about their performance. And so I would now like to start off by recognizing 5 outstanding bus operators, and as I call your name, would you please stand? Alexa McCracklin, North Park Garage. Alexa's been with us for 3 years and 7 months, and last year had 11 commendations. Earl Williams of the North Park Garage isn't here with us today, but he has been with us for 12 years and 7 months, and last year had 4 commendations. Brandy Allen, 77th Street Garage. Brandy's only been with us for 1 year, but in that 1-year term, she has gotten 6 commendations. Eugene Lawson. Kedzie Bus Garage. Eugene has been a CTA employee for 17 years and 6 months, and last year he received 5 commendations and is also proudly wearing his presidential commendation, which he received from me based on my own personal observation of his quality customer service and the performance of his job. Emmanuel Baracco from North Park Garage. Emmanuel's been with us for 4 years and 10 months, and he has received 4 commendations in the last year. These 5 operators, who have nearly 40 years of combined service experience driving a CTA bus, have the important responsibility of navigating a large vehicle through challenging traffic and weather conditions, and I should point out, doing a job that I personally could never do myself. But in addition to that, their work also requires them to handle their job and even our most toughest customers with grace, patience, and kindness. And they have certainly exemplified that in terms of the accommodations they have received and the work that they've done for CTA. So thank you very much. I also want to congratulate some additional employees on the rail operations side of our house who have gone above and beyond their duties to provide customers with excellent service as well. They have all received multiple commendations and are also in the top of CTA's categories and within their job classifications. The first individual I'd like to recognize, and you can stand as I call your name, is Martavia West. Martavia has been a customer service representative out of the Rosemont terminal. She's been with us for 5 years, and last year she received 2 commendations for her work. Tuggle Bowens. Mr. Bowens is a customer service representative also out of the Rosemont terminal. He's also been with us for 5 years, and he has also received 2 commendations for his work. Lachelle Evans Beard. Ms. Beard is also a customer service representative working out of the Howard terminal. She has been with us for 5 years, and she has also received 2 commendations for her work. And finally, Teresa Gorens. Ms. Gorens is a janitor. She works out of the Rosemont terminal. She has been with us for 5 years and 1 month. She has also received 2 commendations, and I would also like to point out that she is also a graduate of our Second Chance Apprenticeship Program. Every day, these dedicated employees provide our customers with the assistance that they need, providing directions, helping them with venture questions, and greeting customers with a small and kind word. They also reflect the face of CTA on the rail side of our house, and they provide excellent customer service time and time again. I would like to say that all of these employees are the best reflection of CTA's values, and once more, I'd like to give them a round of applause. So on behalf of Chairman Peterson, the board, myself, and our entire family of CTA employees, I want to thank you for your service, for your hard work, and your commitment to CTA.
Thank you. Thank you. Dorval, if I could just add something. One, I thought it was interesting. This is a little shout out to the North Park Garage. You had 3 representatives. 77th and Vincent, I stayed at 7927 South Perry. So that was right down the street from my house. West Side, I work at Rush, so Eugene, you're over at Kedzie. And I can only imagine it is fun riding on your bus. Exactly. I go out from time to time, but again, we need the revenue, absolutely. Absolutely. Let me just say, too, on behalf of the board, that we also join Dorval in just commending you for the service that you provide. I mean, without you and the service you provide, whether you're a CA or a bus driver or whatever capacity you serve in, again, I don't have to tell you the millions of customers that we serve on a daily basis, and it only happens because of dedicated employees like you. So again, thank you for your dedicated service, and hopefully I'll see you here again next year as well. So again, thank you. All right, thank you. All right, thank you. Thank you.
Can we get we'd like to get a picture with the board?
Group photo up front, everyone.
I should have pointed out that Mr. Lawson this is his second time coming to the board. He was also a recognized last year for a similar type of work effort, so he's on a roll.
I think we can fit everyone behind the desk. So if I could get everyone between the, yeah. Just have to squeeze in. So President, Chairman in the middle, and then 4 and 4 on each side.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you so much.
Oh, you see? Okay.
Yeah, I'm taking central notes here. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Congratulations. Good to meet you.
All right.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Now we just need to move this to the other side.
You can stand in front of me.
All right. There we go.
And I sit right in the middle.
Aspiring.
Okay, I'm gonna turn to the side. This is my good side here. Turn to the side.
And sir, on the end, if you could just scoot in just a little farther. Yeah, there we go. And Eugene, can you just go over just a hair that way? Thank you. All right, big smiles. Let me check exposure. All right. Big smiles, everyone. And 1 second. All right, here we go. Big smiles, please. And got it. Thank you very much.
Okay, I think we're all set. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Greg. Next order of business today is public comment. Greg?
Yes, Mr. Warren did not come today. He was pretty sick when I spoke to him yesterday, so there'll be no public comment today.
All right, thanks, Greg. Next order of business today is the approval of the board minutes of February 14, 2018. The minutes were previously distributed. Any comments? If not, I'll now entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the regular board meeting of February 14th.
No, I'm sorry, it's March 14th. I'm sorry, sir.
It's March?
Yeah,
Okay, of March, you're right, of March 14th.
yes.
Second?
And second, for the March 14th minutes, Mr. Miller, Ms. Irvine,
Yes.
Ms. Alvarez-Rosales,
Yes.
Mr. Silva,
Yes.
Chairman Peterson.
Yes.
The minutes for the CTA board meeting of March 14th is approved with 4 yes votes and 1 abstention.
Thank you, Greg. We will now take up executive session matters. It is my understanding that there would be executive session this morning, Karen?
Yes, Chairman, we will have executive session pursuant to Section 2, subparagraph C8 and 11, C8 and 11 of the Open Meetings Act.
Thank you, Karen. May I have a motion to recess into executive session for reasons so stated by council?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Miller.
Yes.
Ms. Irvine.
Yes.
Ms. Alvarez-Rosales.
Yes.
Mr. Silva.
Yes.
Chairman Peterson.
Yes.
That motion is approved with 5 yes votes to recess into executive session.
Thank you, Greg.
vote before he leaves. If everybody would please be seated, please keep your cell phones silent. We're going to start up right away. We're ready, Chairman.
I would now like to entertain a motion to return to open session.
So moved.
Second.
And second, Mr. Miller.
Yes.
Ms. Irvine.
Yes.
Ms. Alvarez-Rosales.
Yes.
Mr. Silva.
Yes.
Yes. Chairman Peterson.
Yes.
That motion is approved with 5 yes votes.
Thanks, Greg. I would now like to address the executive agenda item, board item number 5A. Karen?
Thank you, Chairman. Board item 5A is the Law Department's recommendation to resolve the lawsuit of Latasha Upshaw as independent administrator of the estate of Cherish Myers, deceased, versus the CTA. This lawsuit involves an accident which occurred on May 26, 2014 at approximately 3 p.m. in the afternoon when the estate representative, her daughter, Cherish Meyer, an 18-month-old on that date, ran into the path of a CTA bus at 7730 South Shore Drive, was struck and died at the scene. The case was mediated before a former judge, and the plaintiff's attorney has now indicated a willingness to resolve the case for $1.5 million, and the Law Department recommends resolution of the case in that amount.
All right, thank you, Karen. I now entertain a motion to approve the following board item: a recommended settlement of $1.5 million in court number 2014L5985, the case of Latasha Upshaw, an independent administrator of the estate of Cherish Myers, deceased, versus Chicago Transit Authority and LaDonna Logwood, CTA and Logwood versus Yolanda Upshaw and Samantha Nelson. May I have a motion to approve the settlement?
So moved.
Second, Reverend Miller.
Yes.
Ms. Irvine.
Yes.
Ms. Alvarez-Rosales.
Yes.
Mr. Silva.
Yes.
Chairman Peterson.
Yes.
That motion to approve 5A passed with 5 yes votes.
Thanks, Greg. The next order of business is board item number 5B. Karen?
Thank you, Chairman. The second item covered in executive session is the recommendation of staff to authorize an IGA with the City of Chicago for its police department to pass through fiscal year 2017 Department of Homeland Security funds to the Chicago Police Department for use on its transit OPAC teams. The total grant that was received was $10,221,237. The Chicago Police Department, under this IGA and pursuant to the grant application, will receive $3,728,560, with CTA obtaining $6,492,677 to be used for cyber and physical security of CTA critical infrastructure.
Thank you, Karen. May I now have a motion to approve board item number 5B, an ordinance authorizing an intergovernmental agreement with the City of Chicago through its Department of Police for federal fiscal year 2017 transit security grant funds.
So moved.
Second.
And second, Mr. Miller.
Yes.
Mr. Irvine.
Yes.
Ms. Alvarez-Rosales.
Yes.
Mr. Silva.
Yes.
Chairman Peterson.
Yes.
Motion to approve board agenda item 5B passes with 5 yes votes.
Thanks, Greg. The next order of business is a report from the Committee on Finance, Audit, and Budget. Director Silva.
The Committee of Finance, Audit, and Budget met earlier this morning. The committee approved the March 2018 committee minutes and reviewed the finance report. The committee reviewed all 12 purchase and sales award recommendations. The committee recommended board approval of all the purchases and sales award recommendations. The committee placed 11 of these recommended items on the omnibus for board approval, except contract G1. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Director Silva. May I have a motion to approve the omnibus as stated by Director Silva?
So moved.
Second.
This is the omnibus without G1. Reverend Miller.
Yes.
Ms. Irvine.
Yes.
Ms. Alvarez-Rosales.
Yes.
Mr. Silva.
Yes.
Chairman Peterson.
Yes.
The motion to approve the omnibus passed with 5 yes votes.
Thanks, Greg. May I now have a motion to approve contract G1, the Adobe contract.
So moved.
Mr. Miller? Ms. Irvine?
Yes.
Ms. Alvarez-Alice?
I'll abstain.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
Chairman Peterson?
Yes.
That motion is approved with 4 yes votes on G1 and 1 abstention by Ms. Alvarez-Alice.
Thanks, Greg. The next order of business is a construction report. Chris?
So today we'll review 5 projects. The 95th project, Quincy Loop Station Rehab, the Ravenswood Loop Signals, Illinois Medical District, and the East Lake Milwaukee and Illinois Substation project. So the first project, 95th Terminal, continues on budget and tight to schedule. We did have a significant milestone that we reached last week in opening the South Terminal. So I'm pleased to say that that went well, and we are aggressively focusing our attention to the construction of the North Terminal. There's some photographs here of the South Terminal. These pictures are no more than 2 weeks old, yet you can see the significant progress that was made during that time to open the facility up. So I'm pleased to say our customers are in there now and using the facility to their benefit. Moving on to the Quincy station, this project continues on budget, also tight to schedule. Most of the construction at this point is in and around the elevators, so we are in the process of modernizing that station to include accessibility, as you well know. That has many components. The components you see here are the walkway connecting the elevator with the old station house. So that is under construction. You can see the formwork that takes place that will ultimately allow us to cast the floor and continue with the installation. The contractor is also installing the exterior cladding on the elevator, and we will be beginning work on the elevator itself in the not too distant future. Ravenswood Loop Signal project continues on budget and tight to schedule. We're still in the phases of we have miscellaneous work occurring inside the new relay houses that will make the backbone of the system, as well as continued structural work as the project moves north. This is the Willow Relay House. I have a picture here, I think, of the northernmost part of this project, the bond platform, which is just beyond the Armitage house, the Armitage station, rather. So this is the 4-track corridor. The 2 flaggers you can see in that photograph, the Armitage station is to their back. So this is kind of the northernmost part of this job, which really goes from Armitage, where the Ravenswood connector starts, through the MART into the loop. Illinois Medical District, Chairman, I think you'll appreciate the photograph here of Ogden. This is the most significant of the renovations in the station. The station has kind of 3 components to it: Paulina, Ogden, which will receive an elevator, and then subsequently Damon, which has been renovated and opened already. The most extensive work is here at Ogden in conjunction with the elevator, everything from installing the foundations to, as you see here, working on the structure of the new station house. Paulina is coming along nicely. This effort is moving along. It's a little further along than Ogden, but it's a smaller scope of work. And then in conclusion, the substation project, East Lake, Milwaukee, and Illinois, both on time and on budget. Work is continuing here in the background with testing the equipment. We go through a rigorous testing of all this utility-grade electrical equipment that goes into these substations, as well as miscellaneous installations within the substations preparing for that. So you can kind of see the removal of existing equipment and then the installation of new dielectric floor, which is really a flooring that helps us isolate this electricity-rich equipment from its surroundings, in particular, obviously, the floor underneath it. And that concludes my report.
Great. Any questions for Chris? No questions. Let me just say, because I was out Sunday at the 95th Street opening, just a great job by you and your team, and looking forward to the North Terminal opening up. But great job, Chris.
Thank you.
All right. Greg, is there any new business to come before the board? Yes, there is.
No, sir. It's still horrible weather out there, so nothing new.
Well, there is one. I wanted to just make mention of, I think it was on April the 11th that Mayor Emanuel issued an executive order that prohibited his cabinet members from asking the salary of a person in their previous job. And I just applaud him for that, but I wanted to just ask our president, Dorval Carter, what actions we were taking along those similar lines to make sure, because I think the purpose of doing that was to address the pay equity that exists often between men and women. And so I wanted to just have Dorval speak to what we're going to do as an agency going forward as well.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, as you indicated, last week, the mayor passed an executive order that basically prevented any city department from inquiring as to the salary history of an applicant prior to or as part of the selection and hiring process for that individual, primarily as a basis to deal with the ongoing wage inequities that exist between men and women employees throughout the country, not just necessarily here in Chicago. At that time, the mayor also made a request to all the sister agencies to pursue similar policies if they could. I'm pleased to inform you that today I'll be signing an executive order here at CTA that will institute the same policy at CTA, and that we will not be using prior wage or salary history as a way to screen job applicants or as a way to review their salaries during any of the selection and hiring process, including the interview process and all the activities that happen in between. The executive order will make it clear that there is no CTA department that should ever seek the wage or salary history, including benefits or other compensation of any job applicant from any current or former employer at this point and going forward. So that'll be signed today, and that'll be effective immediately.
Well, I just wanted to say on behalf of the board, first of all, let me just commend you for that. And I also wanted to have it on the record that the board also supports that. I think absolutely if we're going to close the equity gap, this is a great step forward. So I want to just commend you in terms of that, signing the executive order. And then two, I would also say that just for the record, the board supports that and in complete support of that. I don't know if any of the other board members have any comments.
No, just thank you for doing that.
So Greg, other than that, any new business? Okay, with no further business to come before the board, may I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second? Need a second? Second. Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned. Thank you.